Yeah. So anyway, looks like Elon is ruffling some feathers at Twitter after saying the thing you shouldn't say. Apparently, during the meeting, he had said all lives matter, and Twitter employees are losing their minds, as well as a lot of clowns on Twitter who are mad that allegedly SpaceX fired some employees who issued some public statement against their own boss. So, like, in the real world, okay, in the real world where most of us live, if you talk junk about your boss publicly and you are an at-will employee at an at-will employer, you get fired. That's the real world, not this internet la-la land where people at Twitter and in Silicon Valley think that they can just issue statements about their company and be critical of their bosses and things like I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm saying in the real world, you get fired for it. Let's start with first the Twitter employees freak out at Elon saying all lives matter. The billionaire addressed Twitter employees to fill them in on his plans for the company, and PV obtained a recording of the remote session. During the conference call, the Tesla founder reiterated his position as free speech absolutist, adding that people should be able to say pretty outrageous things on Twitter as long as they were legal. However, Twitter employees appeared to be even more triggered by Musk uttering the words, all lives matter. He literally just all lives mattered, one complained, according to a screenshot of a leaked Twitter Slack channel. Yikes, commented another. I mean, I would say these people are going to be fired. Like, just volunteer to be fired at this point. Like, isn't it obvious? Like, it should be painfully obvious who the fat that can be trimmed is. Others claimed Musk was engaging in phobia, while others appeared to be upset at Musk describing his political views as moderate. Another employee asked whether, quote, misinformation would be allowed under the guise of free speech. During the Q&A, Musk also clarified that authenticating all humans on the platform remained a primary goal, but that didn't mean anonymous users wouldn't be able to use Twitter. I think it's an important goal for Twitter. Twitter would be try to include as much of the country, as much of the world as possible, he said. Musk also asserted that it was essential to have free speech and that the legacy media outlets are overly negative and almost never get it right. I see no incorrect statement. Everything he said is true, right? He noted that multiple opinions should exist on the platform to make sure that we're not sort of driving a narrative. Well, yeah, I think we would all agree on that, right? We would definitely agree on that. I mean, I would assume. Now, SpaceX said to fire employees involved in letter rebuking Elon Musk. In an email, Gwen, SpaceX's president, said the letter had made other employees feel uncomfortable, intimidated, and bullied. I believe that that's probably true. It's like, what world are you living in? Are you even looking at the screen now, or are you just staring at my face? Is it? Get a good look, all right? I did this for coffee. By the way, the fulfillment team is working through the weekend now to fill all those orders. They've all promised to come in and work overtime this weekend to get all the orders out. I appreciate everyone that ordered and used code SHAVE to save 5% off single orders, on everyone that signed up for auto refill, because that automatically saves you 10%. So feel free to check out Coffee Brand Coffee, or at least check out the reviews. I think that that'll be enough to convince you. Some SpaceX employees began circulating a letter which denounced Mr. Musk's activity on Twitter. On Wednesday, the letter called the billionaire's public behavior and tweeting a frequent source of distraction and embarrassment, and asked the company to rein him in. Mr. Musk is currently closing a $44 billion deal to buy Twitter. By Thursday afternoon, SpaceX had fired some of the letter's organizers, according to the 3 employees and an email from the president. In her email, which was obtained by the New York Times, she said the company had investigated and terminated a number of the employees involved. The letter, solicitations, and general process made employees feel uncomfortable, intimidated, and bullied, and or angry because the letter pressured them to sign on to something that did not reflect their views. We have too much critical work to accomplish and no need for this kind of overreaching activism. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, this is the real world. This is like how the real world works. The letter, solicitations, and general process made employees feel uncomfortable, intimidated. It was unclear how many employees were fired. James Gleason, a SpaceX spokesman, did not immediately return request. The open letter followed recently publicized accusations of bad behavior by Mr. Musk amid his contentious acquisition of Twitter. On Thursday, Mr. Musk addressed Twitter employees for the first time since his takeover via video call to answer their questions. I mean, maybe just shut up and do your job. Imagine thinking that you have you are so important that you can demand your boss doesn't tweet as much. Are you kidding me? If I were Elon, that's exactly how I would have handled it. You're just fired. Nobody's irreplaceable. That's the real world. And oh, by the way, just like the president said of the company of SpaceX, we're trying to push society, mankind, humankind ahead. We don't have time for this garbage. You're offended stuff. There are plenty of people who don't use Twitter. There are plenty of people who can handle their boss tweeting. I can't imagine caring. I don't even follow Susan Wojcicki. She's my boss. There are things that she does that embarrass me, but I couldn't imagine writing some sort of formal letter and then pressuring other people to sign it inside of a traditional office. You could do a YouTube video and say this sucks, but inside of YouTube, if you were passing around a letter to admonish your boss, you'd also be fired. This is the way the real world works. And the idea that you have all these internal, Slack conversations are also hilarious. It's just a who's who of insane privilege. Insane privilege employees snarking about all of the queer people cannot trust this man. We've seen this kind of phobia before. There's nothing salvageable about what he says. You're fired. You're just fired. I don't I don't think it does. All these people having this kind of meltdown. I just don't know. I grew up different, I guess. Your opinion doesn't matter. You're an employee. Your opinion on work-related things, that matters. But your opinion on social issues and who your boss votes for and all that stuff doesn't matter. And these people are in for a rude awakening because for too long they've existed in a system where they're making huge sums of money, and they've got way too much privilege. And when he completes his purchase, they're going to be the first ones fired. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that these entitled brats which is what they are going to be the first ones he fires. It's not that, again, by the way, with the SpaceX people, it's not that they wrote the letter. It's that they were walking around the office and having people sign it and trying to make some big thing, like too big, like they were going to get Twitter famous for this. They sent it to the New York Times, all this stuff. You're just fired. You know, that's what happens when you're the boss. You get that privilege. And when you're the employee, you don't have that privilege. And that's exactly how this paid out. I'm sure all these people are sitting at home right now thinking, man, I was working for one of the coolest companies in this country, and some chick I was trying to hook up with got me to sign this letter, and now I'm fired for it. Like, I just absolutely love it. It's like the best instant regret story of 2022. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.